Hey, what's happening? Happy Saturday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early. It's 4 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, today I want to talk a little bit about Trump was in Las Vegas Friday night, last night. He was stumping for some butt-kissing Republican. I don't really care who it was. Interesting thing, just in the last couple of days, Trump was talking about why he is supporting Dr. Oz. And he said he supports Dr. Oz because Dr. Oz said good things about him. Because Dr. Oz said that he's in good health. And that's not about his agenda, not about topics or what's going on in Pennsylvania or anything like that. Just because Dr. Oz kissed his backside. That's why basically that's what he said. Anyway, okay, so he's in Las Vegas Friday night, and there's a few things that I take exception with that he said. Well, for one thing he said, well, first of all, he was giving kind of a tribute to Shinzo Abe, and he was completely drowned out. I don't know how he continued on with this speech. The song was playing over him. You couldn't hear what he was saying. I can only imagine the rage, knowing Trump, the rage he must have gone into, because he looked like an idiot trying to talk over the song continuing to play. Man, somebody lost their job in Las Vegas Saturday night. That's not really what I want to talk about, though. He said that, one thing he said was that everybody was happy in America before COVID. I Googled a few things, like Americans happiness 2018 2019 Americans divided, and I got some interesting results. I beg to differ that the country was and then there's a couple other links I'll put down below about race and religion and the country being divided and general happiness. And no, he is quite wrong. People were not happy starting around the year 2000, but especially around 2016. Americans' overall happiness declined. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. Trump talked about, here's an interesting thing he said. I'll have the link to this down below. He said that when he was his administration cut drug use by 18% in the White House. That's interesting. I was not aware there was that big a drug problem in his administration in the White House. Unless he misspoke. I didn't think he did that, though. I thought only Joe Biden did stuff like that. So I don't know. Either he was talking nonsense, or there was a huge drug problem in his White House. It's one or the other. Anyway, down to the crux of this video, what I really want to talk about. Okay, Trump, he called for the death penalty for drug dealers. Now, this is not something I'm proud of. You guys know my history. I was a hard drug user every day for 2.5 decades, and I did resort to business, to selling, to support my habit. I more or less, right when I first started using, and throughout my 2.5 decades, I did do that. I did tend to sell and use. Okay, so Trump says that when he talked to the leader of China, Xiaoping, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. But he said how that the leader of China, they said, oh, we have no problem with drugs in China. Not that the leader of China would lie, the leader of this authoritarian communist country, not that he would lie about his country's drug use or anything. But Trump says that the leader told him that they have no problem with drug use because they execute drug dealers. And Trump said that that's, if he was president again, that's what we should do. We should execute drug dealers. I want to talk briefly a little bit about that. 35 countries in the world right now do that. They execute people for selling drugs. Almost all of them are authoritarian. North Korea, Vietnam, China. So once again, Trump is going down the idolizing authoritarian leaders. That's just one aspect of this. Okay, now, like I said, a lot of people that sell drugs, I don't know the percentage, but a lot of them use that as a way to pay for it, because drug use is the amount you could spend is infinite, exorbitant. You know, I could spend 500, 5,000 in a day. Whatever I have, I would spend. And you have to resort. You don't have to, but you end up resorting to other means. A lot of times, or you sell, or you become a middleman. Now, I assume when he talks about the death penalty, he's talking about all drug sales. Another thing I want to point out too is, you know, I am a drug addict with the disease of drug addiction. So you're talking about executing people basically for the disease that they have. I mean, you wouldn't execute somebody for having diabetes or doing something, acting in some way that the diabetes is making them resort to. You wouldn't think of executing somebody for that. And it's the same with this. Another thing I found when I was using, after about 2 decades, I started to see that the dealers that weren't using, the dealers that were in this for the money, were actually addicted, just as addicted as I would. This is kind of one of my points too. They were just as addicted, but they were addicted to the whole life, the whole, the thrill, the money. You know, I saw this in their routines. So they would get caught, they'd come right back. I mean, it wasn't just about the money, it was the thrill, the whole life of it. They were just as addicted as I was. I've been clean for 15 and a half years now. This was about 2 years ago. I saw one of the dealers that I used to purchase from arrested again. You know, he had continued selling. He was in his 30s. He had to be almost in his 50s, and he was still getting arrested and selling. And, you know, he looked worse. The money obviously isn't benefiting him. He's still going back to jail. It's like an addiction for them. I really saw this. And a lot of times I looked at some of these dealers as being almost more addicted to the money and the power and the rush of dealing than I was to the drugs. But they're not all like that. Let me tell you another example. One of the dealers that I was getting heroin from was driving a BMW, a beautiful BMW, and he just got new wheels and tires on it. So I was meeting him to get my usual daily fix, and I commented about the beautiful tires, the beautiful wheels, and he says they were expensive, and then I think he said they should be beautiful. They were expensive. You bought them. He told me that. I paid for them. That kind of ticked me off. That was, you know what, that was something that I never forgot. That dealer actually did me a favor by saying that, kind of rubbing it in my face. The amount of money that I was spending, that kind of brash statement really stuck with me. It was one of the driving factors that pushed me to get clean. Another thing I want to point out. Okay, say that you execute drug dealers. That is not going to solve the problem of addiction. The addicts, nothing about the addicts' life, nothing about their addiction is going to change. Okay, you have the addicts over here, the dealers over here. You execute execute this dealer. Another one will in a second, 2 more will take his place. The money is outrageous, and like I said, it's more than that. It's the rush. I remember when I used to deal a little bit, it really felt like you had, I hate to say this, but it felt like you had power over people. Like I said, the way that I commented on this dealer's, on his car, like I was kissing his butt. I was, you know, and people do that. And you get it, the dealers get addicted to that. When one dealer, it would make no difference if you executed a dealer. It would automatically be replaced. But the most important thing here is it wouldn't change one single thing about the addict's life and his addiction. That's what you have to see here. Like I said, the addict over here, the addict here, the dealer here. And you take out the dealer, you execute the dealer. But what does that change about the addict's life? Nothing. The addiction, when he wakes up in the morning, that drive, that craving, everything about that addiction is still there, regardless of this, if this guy got executed or not. Is it going to change the availability? No, no way whatsoever. Just because you execute one, two more will take his place. And you got to remember too, these drugs are coming in through the mail, airplanes, through the sea, drones, any submarines. There's an amazing amount of ingenuity when it comes to this amount of money. And it's not all like migrants carrying a backpack like Trumpers or Republicans would like people to believe. But that's my point here. Is you have to treat addiction. The only way you get rid of the dealer is when you make it no longer profitable or less profitable. And the only way you do that is by treating the disease. More beds, more and better treatment. Free, make sure everybody can get treatment. Most addicts do not have any money or any funds. They burnt those bridges long ago. They have no means to pay for any of this. No insurance. And that hinders a lot of addicts from getting any kind of treatment. This needs to be completely free. If you want to get rid of drugs, the scourge of drugs, you have to provide these services for free. There's no way addicts or their families have been dried up through their families, their sons or daughters' addictions too. All their bank accounts have been dried up. So if you say, well, they have the parents pay for it, that's not a possibility either. And one last thing, as far as executing drug dealers, like they say, like I remember being an addict and death. You have no fear of death when you're almost hoping for it. I hate to say that, but when I was involved in drugs, the thought of overdosing or dying was almost it wasn't a bad thing. It's not something you fear, and I imagine it's probably that way with the dealers too. It's just part of the rush. So my point here that is executing dealers just wouldn't do anything to change the problem. It really wouldn't. If you take out one dealer, it will not change the life of an addict in any way, shape, or form. The addict's addiction will still be there. The craving to go out and get any drug will still be there. The money, they're craving to go get the money, and the drug will still be there, regardless if this dealer gets executed or not. It will not change one thing about drug use or drugs being brought into the country. And that's my opinion from somebody who has had way too much experience. All right, you guys have a great Saturday.